So, how do you actually get better at business skills? In a previous video, I covered what the core business skills are, and let's say that you've agreed that those are the skills and you're committed to get better at them. But I said in that video, you can't just read books and sit there and think thoughts to get better, you have to do. So, how do you actually get better at those skills? Well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is learning a business skill is just like learning any other skill, the same rules apply. The bad news is most of us haven't really ever had to learn a skill in the way that I'm talking about. So there's kind of two ways of life. There's the life that we learn in school and in growing up, and then there's the life in the real world. The problem with the school life is that there are these very narrow tracks and rails. You do a test and it's true or false, the right answer, the wrong answer. You take these five classes and then you can graduate. It's all very rigid and structured. In the real world, instead, it's all fuzzy and hazy. When things are right or wrong, A or B, you know, I got the answer right, I got the answer wrong, and that's done. When it's all fuzzy, it's much harder to tell if you're on the right track or not. So, learning a right answer and learning a skill are not the same thing. Learning a skill means that you can take in the information of the situation and you instinctively are reacting in the correct, appropriate response to have the best chance of success. That's when you have a skill ingrained in you. Now, the bad news is we already have a reaction to whatever is happening to us, but it's probably not a honed reaction, which means whatever happens, we might react one way one time. It goes okay, horribly the next time, wonderful the next time, mediocre, not even notice that we were supposed to react. There'll be a large variety. As we build a skill, we can recognize this is the input, these are the reactions I should have, and the output happens more naturally. That's the benefit of a skill is you reduce chaos. Now the problem is that when we first learn a skill, the rule is that you always are going to get worse at whatever you're doing. So just acting on instinct is always going to be a higher level result than stopping, thinking, processing, making decisions. That delay, we're going to get bound up, we're going to make bad choices. But making those bad choices is part of learning how to get better itself. So I'm going to use an example of if you're used to writing with an ink pen and you've always written like this, like a kindergartner with a crayon. That is not the most efficient way to write, but you've gotten pretty good working around writing that quote incorrect way. Now, if someone takes you and tries to morph you into writing in a more traditional style, at first your writing is going to be way worse. And oftentimes, when learning a new skill, at that way worse section, we say, "Nah, I like my way better." We go back and double down on this. This works good enough for me. Now, in these business skills, if you do that, you will never be able to get to that next level. You'll be constrained by your lack of flexibility to grow and to have things break and go worse. If eventually you can stick with this and be okay with it not being great, your end result can be of a much higher level than the ceiling of writing like this. So, with that in mind, when we're learning a new skill, there's a large variety of pieces we have to focus on. Typically, when learning a new skill, there are about 10 things that happen before you ever even get to start improving on the skill itself. So this year, I don't do resolutions. I do a focus each year. My focus this year is to meditate 5 minutes every day. And I tell you what, we are about halfway through January. It's been kicking my butt. It's been super hard. I've probably had 2 good days of meditation out of the days so far because I've been having to learn the foundational elements to even have a chance to have the skill. What do I mean by that? I've been having to learn what is the correct timing for me to try to meditate. It does not work at night when my mind has already been racing. I've realized, oh, the morning is the right time. So it took me 2 or 3 days of meditating in the afternoon or in the evening to realize that's not a good time. I tried it in the morning. Hey, that felt better. Okay, then it took me 3 or 4 days to try to meditate in different chairs positions before I found out, hey, these three chairs don't work. This one kind of does. Laying down, I'm going to fall asleep. I got to eliminate that. Each time I failed, but I learned a lot more. But it's only in the actively doing, the staying committed to learning the skill, that I have a chance to understand what these foundational elements were. Now I'm almost to the point where I have a lot of those elements together, and I'm just able to sit down and focus on trying to figure out the meditation part itself, the skill I came to learn. So getting back to our ink pen example, like if you're trying to adjust writing, one of the first things is like, how do I hold the pen so that it feels somewhat natural? What's the correct tension? Like, how do I not drag my hand on the paper? There are a lot of variable pieces that you're going to have to learn before you even worry about like how you might form an A versus how you used to form an A. So, learning a skill has foundational elements and it takes an incredible amount of time. The good news is that if you put in that time, you will have the result guaranteed. Many people don't put in the time and they hope instead for kind of this magic wand solution. When that happens, you'll get your heart broken. When you put in the work day in and day out, at the end, you have the skill. And no matter what happens, if you're dropped off in a parachute in the middle of nowhere where you know no one, that skill is still with you and you can deploy it right away. That's the essential goal. So, in building a skill in business, our goal is to make it so it's instinctual, it doesn't take effort and energy, and it reduces the chaos. I hope this has helped you understand some of the basic ideas of building a new skill. And I know you can do it, but it is going to be a frustrating, long process, but it's definitely worth it. Thanks. Have a good one.